What's up, folks? Kchris Griffin here. Chris Mason here. I'm sure that I forgot what that guy's name, BACBLA, whichever way. The guy who said, "Why is he calling Chris Mason?" Regardless, I'm sure that he's here. But we are here tonight, people. We got a really good episode for you guys. Going to be very, very, very heavy on what Chris Mason is saying because there's some news in recruiting, especially on the high school scene for our 2027 targets and beyond. So with that being said, people, will see you on the other side of the intro. All right, folks, what's up? It's Monday, so you know what that means. That means that Mason and Kchris Griffin, Horns Down Podcast, Sooners 360, part of the Sooners Intel, recruiting Intel. We are here to give you the latest news on the recruiting trail, especially for this 2027 class that we have upcoming. Chris Mason, how you doing? You back from
I'm
vacation?
I'm back from vacation, ready to hit recruiting. There's a lot going on finally.
All right, well, I'm going to mute my mic and let you go ahead.
Well, we're going to lead off with Rivals put out a big recruiting update, their rankings update, changed up. A lot of players moved up, some players moved down, but generally the big news coming out of the rankings is that OU, according to Rivals, has the number 6 player in the nation. Cooper Hacket, the offensive tackle from Fort Gibson, is the number 6 player in the nation, and that would be pretty much the highest ranked player that OU has a verbal commitment from since, I think, David Stone 2 years ago. And before that, we're into, probably Caleb Williams would probably be the next guy who was as high rated as Cooper Hackett was. So he's number 6. OU's top tight end target top tight end target is the number 18 player in the nation, Seneca Driver from Kentucky. We've talked a lot about him on here. Then you've got OU's offered an edge player out of Virginia. I'm not sure where their odds are on pulling it, but his name's Chris Whitehead. He's like 6'5", 230. A lot of programs after him. He's number 19. But then another OU commit, Caden Penny, number 20 in the nation. They're listing him as an offensive tackle, but I think he probably plays guard for the Sooners. So right there, you have the 2 in-state offensive tackles, 2 of the top 20 players in the nation. So that's a huge deal. 2 in-state 5 stars. Trying to recall the last time that happened for the Sooners. Then you got a couple names. One name that we've been talking about a little bit. OU's trying to make a big push for Dante Wright, the cornerback from Long Beach Poly. That's verbal to Georgia, but OU's making a big push there. He's number 21. And then at 29 is in-state cornerback. I think he's kind of maybe more of an athlete as well because I think he could be a safety. Hell, he could be a wide receiver. It's Gabriel Osborne from Mustang. So when in-state has 3 of the top 30 players in the nation, and OU has verbal commitments from 2 of them, and I think they have a pretty big lead for Gabriel Osborne. Once I think Lamar Morgan gets going recruiting him, just because that changeup has opened up a little room for some folks. But Chris, just right off the bat, 3 players from in-state and the top 30 rankings in the country. I don't recall the last time that's ever happened in-state. Like the best in-state class is generally the Sam, Jermaine Grisham, Gerald McCoy class. And then there's, I think, Dom Franks was in that and a couple other in-state players. That's generally sort of like the baseline. Like that's the best high school class from a recruiting ranking standpoint, elite standpoint in in-state history. But you add in Gabriel Osborne, borderline 5-star status at number 29 in the nation. That's probably going to be a 5-star. We're talking 3 5-star players from in-state, and that's just never happened.
Well, I mean, has it never happened or has it never been a focus? It's kind of hard because you blur the lines, obviously, with the success that Lincoln had. I know we don't want to necessarily, you know,
Well,
hash that
in-state,
out, but
in-state guys, in-state guys, though.
I know with in-state, what I'm saying is that he had a lot of success on the field, but he didn't really recruit in-state guys like that. That wasn't his focus. I mean, I have little stories of, hey, yeah, he didn't recruit my brother, told him he could walk on, and that guy starting at OSU and other places, right? So I mean, it's just things like that, right? Where you're just you kind of reminded of that because let's not act like a lot there. We don't get me wrong, we have a lot of devout Sooner fans, guys who have been Sooner fans as longer than I have been alive, that come through here and listen to these pods that we do, you, myself, and Jason. But we do have some fans who really started their, OU tenure a little bit towards the end of the Bob Stoops era and really heavy on that Lincoln side. So just trying to blur the lines for them just so they realize that this hasn't been a focus for a while. And I know BV came back, and I know from all the people I talked to, that was a huge focus, was that, hey, we're going to get the best players in state, but they're going to be the best players. OU's a national brand, but got to be able to recruit home too. But yeah, no, it's big time whenever you can sit there and say that we're in good spot with a lot of these in-state kids here, especially all the talent. We're able to keep them from being poached because Arkansas and Bama will come in here and take a kid or two. Ohio State kids, places like that. I mean, just think of the Dax Hills, the Proctors, and guys like that who could have helped out that 22 defense. Right? That's just me just adding in my 2 cents. Chris Mason, I'm sorry for slowing you down.
No, that's all right. I mean, and Dax Hill is probably other than David Stone, who obviously was at IMG but was from Oklahoma City. He was an Oklahoma City kid.
Yeah,
That skews that a little bit. But as we're counting in David Stone as an in-state 5-star. It's Dax Hill, then it's David Stone.
yeah,
There's not really a player in between that I can really think of. Proctor was really good, but he wasn't ranked as high as Dax Hill. Gentry had a ranking that high, and he blew his knee out in high school, and then he kind of dropped in the rankings. He was somewhere in that range, close to that range, but for 3 guys, especially 2 offensive linemen, that and OU needing offensive line guys. If OU can pay off Fasusi and Foji, and then bring in Hackett and Penny and pay that off as well. That's that could be a huge trend for OU. That could bring back a renaissance, maybe in OU offensive line play in
hmm
terms of elite guys. Harkening back to those Mayfield offensive lines, the Kyler offensive line that protected those teams. So it's interesting, but just 3 guys. When you think about Oklahoma doesn't produce that much high-end talent usually, or at least not evaluated talent. I think it's always underrated a little bit. Oklahoma always has some kids that are underrated. We see that every year. We see OU taking those kids and making them big-time players. But for the ranking services to have 3 in-state kids in 5-star territory range is it's sort of unprecedented. I think probably Josh McCuistion's probably doing a pod on or a YouTube video where he's saying that it's been forever, and I've been following OU recruiting as easily as long as Josh has since the 2000s. Before that, I mean it's amazing, and then you've got a player who OU is fighting a battle for in Case Alexander at 123. So you're talking about and then Samaj Stanford, another player they're fighting for. So you're talking about 5 in-state players who are in the top 200 in the rivals rankings, and that's probably not been that case for a long time.
Well, yeah, it hasn't been for a long time, but I mean, there's definitely been some quality talent. Some of those guys are in the league today, right? But
Yeah,
just evaluations. But I mean, that's the beauty of obviously of having Nagy there. It makes that that recruiting search, those recruiting evaluations that much easier because you got more eyes now, and so you can focus on football when you need to, and on that the team in front of you when you need to, and then let those guys do the work to kind of bring more guys into you, unless you are specifically looking elsewhere. But yeah,
And overall, OU leads is tied for the lead right now with seven commitments in the top 300.
who they tie with?
They're tied with Ohio State, so that's where you want to be if you want to be tied with anybody in recruiting, right? Ohio State is pretty much who you'd have no problem being tied with. I mean, they have the best, they have the most talented roster in the country. It's them and Georgia. That's probably from a consensus recruiting standpoint. But yeah, you look and if you're tied with Ohio State, OU's number 3 right now after these rankings changes, the number 3 ranked class in the country. If OU can keep being tied with Ohio State and in the 3 range in this recruiting class as things go on, that would be a drastic turnaround from just a recruiting ranking standpoint from last year's class. And it would show that the Nagy front office, which I think we all thought, especially I did, I've said this on multiple podcasts, I thought their biggest impact was going to be in the portal and have really kind of underestimated their recruiting impact on the high school level. Didn't anticipate how Nagy was going to work and how his front office team was going to transform OU's high school recruiting process, and didn't anticipate that for 2027 that OU was going to be moving, moving higher, would be in this rarefied air of Ohio State. I'll just pull up the 247. OU's ranked number 1. And then they're doing some rankings. Their rankings are a little better. So it's OU's in the same territory as Ohio State, Texas A&M, and Notre Dame. And higher than some other programs. They got the most commits. That helps, but their average commit is really high, and they're cruising towards a top 10. And if they fall the right way, things fall the right way, a top 5 class, and that would be. I don't think we thought that Nagy was going to bring in a top 5 class by the ranking services. I think we kind of thought it would be a little different.
I think that it's a combination, just to add some color to it. I think it's a mix of 3 different things, honestly, which would just be, you feel like you have some stability now with BV,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Uh,
huge.
winning helps as well. Having a 10 win season, and winning in the way that you did last year, knowing that you still have stuff to improve on. And the third thing I think is just, I think Nagy is able to talk to not only the you know representatives, the agents or whatnot, but he's also able to talk to the families in real life NFL terms, as far as this. I've talked to this coach, I've talked to that coach on our staff that is going to be directly involved with your child. This is where we project your child. This is what we see, and this is what I see NFL guys. So I think he's able to kind of mix those things together. So I think if as long as that's in the mix, I mean, I think it's going to be hard for kids to turn him down, because obviously there are a bunch of coaches out there. You can look at Ohio State, their D line coach, right? He just goes and tells the kid, blah blah blah. Look at what I've done. Nick Bosa all the way down, right? And before him, right? So. I mean, you got the same thing, I think, at OU, especially with a Brent Venables there defensively, especially. So, yeah, no, I mean, it really shouldn't shock the world that he's able to do that um, on the recruiting side as well, the high school recruiting side. I'm excited about the portal edition. So I'm gonna see if those two will kind of even out, or we'll see which one has more leverage to it, right? I think obviously you're still playing the long game a little bit, unless Cruel or some of those guys get on the field earlier this year. But at the same time, I think that that portal class, you're looking at it to be pretty amazing. But at the same time, I don't think it's a total shock, but I think it's a pleasant surprise, if we call it that. Anything.
Yeah, to answer Thievery's question, I think we're looking at maybe if these three guys end up as 5 stars, that's going to be a historical high watermark for elite kids from the state of Oklahoma. Now, Oklahoma's had 8 to 10 kids per class that sometimes panned out. Some of the kids were lower ranked and just outplayed their rankings. That happens all the time. But if you're talking about just pure, you know, recruiting services, 5 star, 5 stars, yeah, Oklahoma having 3 5 star kids would be the most in the modern era of recruiting. Like since about 2000 onwards, that would be the most that I've ever seen. I mean, there were no recruiting services ranking the Selman brothers. So back in the day, so that was 3 5 stars in one backfield in I believe Eufaula, if I have that right. I think they're from Eufaula. So yeah, but the other interesting thing, Chris, is that a player that we raved about ever since we saw his film and he verbaled to OU, Keldred Ben, the running back from Montgomery, Texas, who OU basically offered and got a verbal commitment for the rest of the recruiting world, even knew who he was. And I'm like, well, who is this guy? And then you watch his film and it's like, well, if that doesn't look like a slightly smaller Samaje with more home run speed, that's kind of what I view from him. He's 5'10", 210, 215. And he's now the number 86 player in the nation. He's now a top 10 running back nationally. So he went from no ranking at all to being the number 86 player in the nation, not 86 running back, just all players in the country, 86 player. So to make that, for OU to have evaluated and scouted that well, gotten a jump on everybody in recruiting. And again, this kid's in Montgomery, Texas. It's not like he's hiding in some corner of football that no one pays any attention to. That kid played good high school competition in Texas, and he's now the number 86 player in the nation. And I think that speaks again to what Nagy and the evaluations being done by them. They're finding players, they're reviewing film, and and OU's not waiting for Rivals to say some kid's good. Rivals is figuring out that the OU front office knows what they're doing. So it's interesting that I think you may see some of the underrated guys that OU's front office believes in. I think they're going to get big recruiting bumps from the rankings guys.
No, I hear you. I hear you. Hey, as you can see it, Jason, like he's saying, run those likes up on all 3 channels. You got the Horns Down Podcast, Hall of Fame College Football Podcast with Jason and the coach, and you got Sooners 360 with our recruiting guru over here, Kchris Mason. So definitely run all of that up for us. Kchris Mason, also got to give a shout out to our sponsor, Kaizen Performance Sports. So definitely go check them out. They're here in Norman. So if you're in the area or you're close or whatever the case may be, want to check out a new gym, go and check that out. Great gym. I'm there. You can definitely see me if you go in the mornings. Regardless of Kchris Mason, let's keep it moving on this pod. What's up
Yeah.
next?
Well, the next thing, just one last wrap up, Chris. That's the 3 5 stars in state. But when you look at the rankings, it looks like OU has a good chance at another 5 top 100 players. And I think there's a good chance OU could land at least another 7 or 8 guys in the top 300. So OU could be somewhere in the range of about 12 to 13, maybe as high as 15 top 300 players in the nation. And that's rarefied air OU hasn't hit in a while. So just from a elite perspective, there's potential there. And then from 8 top 100 guys would be a great number. And then 15 top 300 guys you'd be in the territory of what Ohio State and UGA have been doing. So that's the rarefied air that OU would like to be in.
No, I hear you.
So the other big issue, Chris, and the thing that's just kind of coming to the forefront is we were talking last time we got together, we mentioned that I thought June 12th and 14th was going to be the big recruiting weekend that the Sooners were going to use. And that would be the big barbecue U weekend. And now it's starting to become clear that OU is using May 29th and the 31st, which I think is the weekend after Memorial Day. Memorial Day is a little earlier this year. I think I have those dates right. And OU's going to use that as a big weekend as well.
Yeah,
And
you're right.
they've got 7 commits visiting that weekend, and they've got 2 guys who they really would like to get also visiting that weekend. So it looks like they're going to be, and I think OU's maybe looked tactically at what they were doing, Chris, and moved and decided that using the last weekend in May is better to get things kicked off than they've sometimes waited, and it's kind of appeared like maybe OU's lost some momentum with some kids and let some other programs grab momentum in May. Well, now they've got an earlier weekend, and then they got a little space before their next weekend. And there's 2 big names that are visiting that are confirmed. They posted this on Twitter, on X, and it's 2 guys. It's top 100 defensive back Bode Sparrow from Utah. He's 6'2", 200 pounds. Great athlete, also a very good wide receiver. So he's kind of got those two-way skills that you like to see from DBs. Good receiver from Utah. Good friends with Crew Jones, the defensive end OU has recruited. He's also visiting that same weekend. I don't think that's a coincidence. And OU's making a move with Bode Sparrow. And I think if OU can't get Samaj Stanford, Bode Sparrow is going to be a very good a player to really pursue to fill the safety spot. And he's a bigger safety, but he's really talented on film. And he's right now in the top 100. They have him as I think it's number 55 in the country. So he would be a big addition at safety. And then a guy that was kind of heavy on OU early. I kind of felt Texas was making a lead. It sounds like OU's maybe making a push from a post that just went live on X. Is Brian Swanson. He's a big offensive guard, offensive tackle, 6'5", 310, 320, from South Oak Cliff in the Dallas area. He got his first offer and kind of starred at an OU summer camp 2 years ago. So OU's been involved, and I think if OU wants, there's starting to be some signs that OU wants to sign a 6-player offensive line class, right? Make up for the shortfall of last year with a bigger class this year, and we'll get to some names that they obviously. That's a theory. So go ahead,
I gotta
Chris.
jump in here real quick. I know that gets you excited. I know that gets you excited taking those type of numbers on the offensive line.
It does because they undersigned last year and they couldn't quite get the guys they wanted at the very end of the class. The one guy chose, I think it was West Virginia or I think it was Purdue, the Indianapolis kid they were looking after, and then the Houston kid. He chose Houston, I think, because it was an easier path to get on the field. So I'd love a 6-player class. You're talking about a lot of guys that OU has had at summer camp that have worked with Bill. Almost every guy has been at OU summer camp, worked with Bill as an offensive lineman. And I think that's a better strategy for success, both in recruiting and longer term, in terms of offensive line development. They know what they're getting into. Bill knows how coachable they are. It's a better read. The OU front office has a chance to evaluate them in an OU controlled environment, able to pull the guys aside, do drill work with them, so to get a better feel for strengths, weaknesses. So Brian Swanson would be an interesting addition if OU could land him, and that would give you 4 offensive linemen. And then we're talking about the next big weekend, June 12th through the 14th. OU already has 4 verbal commitments visiting, but then we've got names that we've been talking about on this show for a lot of weeks. Jamison Roberts, Gus Corsair, Juju Johnson, Graydon Howell, the Broken Bow wide receiver athlete OU offered, Tyson Ross from Kansas, the offensive lineman they like as well. So it could be 2 big weekends where OU could really stack up some verbal commitments. That's if they don't pick up some verbal commitments from some of these guys over the next 6 to 8 weeks, as OU has junior days, players visit during spring practice, and I think the spring game is back on the menu of being a big recruiting event for the Sooners.
It should be. It's always a really good event, and I think now this year will be interesting to see what that turnout is. I mean, the turnout was actually pretty good for the combine thing last year, but I think that with the season we had, the excitement around everything, I think people will definitely show up. It should be pretty full.
Return of a real spring game, and as you said, the 10 game season, 10 win season, just a lot of momentum.
And the fact that they moved it to that third week seems to always be the perfect week to have the game in April. You can't have it those first 2 weeks because it's still a little bit windy, a little bit rainy, a lot of gray. But that third week seems to always be the one. What I was going to say to you, do you want to answer some questions real quick, or do you want to keep on
Yeah,
moving?
we can go to some questions. Yeah.
All right. We got a question from True Oki 22. He says, any word on OU getting a QB commitment for 27? Obviously, you just mentioned the Robinson kid, but he says, didn't Florida just uh, offer the Robinson kid?
They did, and UGA just offered the Robinson kid, and he just got ranked in the top 300 and got his first 4-star evaluation. So he's really on the rise ranking wise. But OU's developed a big lead. They've made him a focus while programs like Florida, Georgia, Auburn are recruiting 4 or 5 quarterbacks. So at least 2 or 3 different guys. OU has just focused on making Roberts their guy. You're our guy. You're the only guy we're focusing on. We're not offering anybody else. We want you to be our quarterback. And from all the national media recruiting guys and from my sources as well, it looks like that message has landed. I think Roberts should be on campus for the Future Freaks event March 7th. Those visits are a little bit tenuous. But if he's on campus for that event, I think Chris there's a decent chance that he could go ahead and commit and end this and join the Sooner class.
Would love that. All right, official Boomer 580. He says, Mr. Mason, what's your thoughts on the 26 safety depth? He said, you got Peyton Bowen, you got Boganowski, and you got Man back there. He said after that it's unproven.
Well, I think Reggie Powers is also a player that will be a factor at safety, especially if the Nico Jandro kid can give you some reps, and Taylor Heim and Nico Jandro can give you some coverage at Cheetah, as well as possibly Jeremiah Newcomb back from injury could also play some Cheetah. So, I think there's some interesting depth there. Oh, you did lose Jaden Hardy. He was providing good depth at safety. And I think Malik Hawkins probably could have also been in the safety picture as well. I think the cornerback room was a little stacked, and you could have played Malik Hawkins at safety as well. So yeah, OU's a little light there. The Markel Ford was in a boot when he first moved on campus. I don't know the status of him. I would have liked to have seen them add another safety from the portal. Maybe we'll see something later from someone who's available, or maybe a JUCO player, possibly something
What about,
there.
yeah, I was gonna say, what about the Prince kid?
Um, well, so are Dakota Fields and Prince Igioma, are they cornerbacks or are they safeties? They've got safety frames,
I,
right?
I feel like the Prince kid is more of a safety. I
I
mean,
think we
looking at
we
his
could
yeah.
we could come out of spring with that answer, Chris.
Yes,
Like
I mean scouring some of the tape that on the kid. Just hell, I had to kind of go back to high school or whatever. I mean, to me, he is, and I know this is putting a lot of pressure on the kid because of the name I'm about to say, but it's very Kendall Dobie esque if pre-injury, if I may be honest. I mean, just a kid, honestly, that he's just a gamer. Honestly, I don't know if he really has a real position. Maybe he can play corner, like being a big corner, but I mean, honestly, when they talked about, oh, well, maybe he could fit at Cheetah or whatnot, I was like, he's just kind of a Swiss Army knife. He just makes plays. He's long, he's lanky, quick to the ball, And like I said, I mean, I got the same feeling when I watched Dolby's NEO tape. I was like, I mean, this guy just makes. I mean, it's a no brainer why Cheetah worked out for Dolby because it just felt natural for him in my estimation. I mean, just watching him, he's just a gamer. So it'd be interesting to see where that kid fits in. I definitely think the Dakota Fields kid. I think he's definitely a corner, but I think the other kid, I don't know, Chris Mason.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll obviously you're going to try both of those kids at both spots and see what works, right? They've got the frames to play safety, so I think, and if you've got some more cheetah reps and cheetah bodies, that allows you to play Reggie Powers more at safety as well. So to give him some, to split his time between those two positions. So if you have Reggie Powers playing more safety, and maybe you have, as you said, Prince Ujoma playing safety, and you've got Amarian Robinson, you're going from 3 to 4 bodies to 5 or 6 to 5 to 6 bodies. So that's right about where you want to be depth wise. And again, if Markel Ford is healthy during spring, I think athletically he's got a big frame. He's a good athlete. We can see some things. And again, if Nico Jandro picks up Cheetah, that really allows you to play Reggie at more at safety, and that I think gives you four battle tested safeties. And I'm not sure in the world of the transfer portal and everything else, I'm not sure you can have a lot more depth than that going into a season.
Yeah.
I mean, most programs would kill to have 4 safeties with the experience, 3 safeties with the experience of Reggie Powers, Peyton Bowen, and Boganowski. You had Amarian Robinson, who is one of those second-year players that we all think could have a breakout. So, based upon the play he had as a freshman, I think that's not an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah. Jimmy, yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think everybody would love to have that type of freak just running around the field, man. I mean,
It's
what he was
combine.
able,
It's combine week. I mean, he's gonna blow it up. I think
yeah,
we all think he's gonna blow up the combine.
for what he was able to do playing. I mean, who was that? I was listening to somebody talk about. I think it was the breakdown today early this morning when they were talking about it. It's like, I mean, let's just be real. He played nickel, right? And I mean, it just Kendall Dolby coming here. I mean, he should have had his ass here the entire time. I think that if he had his ass here the entire time, which there were talks, this and that, late, all the rest of that, whatever the case may be. I'm glad he came here when he did, but man, that dude's a first rounder. If he played, here just a tad bit longer, maybe what 2? You think 2 years in this system, and you think he would have been first round, or you think?
Yeah, I think if he played 2-3 years in Norman, he's it's all American type conversation,
Yeah.
and it's with his measurables, it's probably pretty close to a 3, probably pretty close to a first, late second, early second kind of profile.
And if you don't mind, just here's the point right here, and we forget about this now. I get it. That kid, like the Prince kid, I'm gonna use him as just kind of a cross comparison, right? So here's the interesting part. Our coaches have a lot of success. And we talked about this, Chris Mason. Our coaches have a lot of success getting kids ready to play year one, getting them ready to perform at a high level. Look at Kendall Daniels. Look at Marvis Jones Jr.'s. You coming in with motor issues, um, um, you know, can they actually tackle? Can they do this? Can they do that? Can they be physical? Yada yada yada. All this stuff you hear from all these other teams, and throughout the season, you felt like these are brand new players almost. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, I mean, you imagine both Kendall Daniels and Marvin Jones Jr. with like 2-3 years in the OU program with with Brandon Hall,
yeah,
Godwin for Daniels, right? And Marvin Jones Jr. with Chavis, getting him going. It's not hard to imagine both of those guys having a much higher profile in terms of their NFL rankings. I think they're going to go to the combine, and folks are going to be like, "Wow,
yeah,
these are some athletes," and then they're going to look at that film and realize, there is a lot more in the gas tank There's a lot more in the gas tank, the development gas tank for both of those guys. If I'm an NFL team, the measurables are what you want. I mean, Daniels could be that kind of, you know, Swiss Army knife piece that gives NFL defenses, you know, the ability to just do different things based, you give offenses different looks and confuse them. So I think it's a I'll be interested to see in Prince Ajama and Dakota Fields. What can OU get out of these? I mean, Fields is like a top 100 guy. 6'2", 6'3", 200 pounds, cornerback, big time high school player. Just got kind of lost at Oregon. And who does this sound like? This sounds like Kendall Daniels and Marvin Jones Jr., right? Guys that just sort of got lost elsewhere, need an attitude or approach reboot.
Yeah.
Come to Norman, and look, dude, you're not going to play unless you're kicking ass, right?
All I gotta say is that hey, um, all signs are pointing towards positive trends. I mean, the whole thing is that Chris Mason. I'll just be honest with you. I mean, you come to a new team, no expectations. We know who our top three guys are. At least, I think I can speak for you, myself, and Jason. We feel like we know who our top three guys are: Bowen, Guillory, and then you have Jacoby Johnson right there in the fray, right? But after that, it's a lot of opportunities for guys. It's new opportunities. Then you throw on top of that, you get a new coach. You get what I'm saying? So
Oh yeah,
yeah, no, there's a lot of opportunities out here for these guys. But Chris Mason, one last thing I'll say before we go to our last topic is, um, again, like I told you and Jason, I think the conversation. Obviously, I know people want to talk about material, but I think that the the real conversation that is going to be overshadowed by that as we progress through this offseason talking about this new team 132 is simply this: we got to talk about the guys that they're betting on to be good this year, the Nigel Smiths, the Trent Wilsons, the Bishop kid, Taylor, the Heim kid, possibly. Those are kids there that maybe Heim
James
is,
James Nesta, another
yeah,
guy they're betting on to be good.
maybe Heim is not the athlete that Kendall Daniels is, but you still can't teach 6'6". Get what I'm saying? If the defensive line is just as good as it was last year with Okoye and Wine and PJ Adebawore, I mean the whole thing is Chris Mason, like, that helps you a lot on that back end to get that fourth guy ready as you progress through the season, because we all know games 2, 4, and 5, those are going to be, balls to the wall. Like, you got to be prepared. You got to be ready to go from the get go. So if that defensive line and some of those guys that they're betting on really step up and have a big impact this year, that lessens the blow a lot. And that makes it easy to the point to where you have damn near 3 games, which you should have 3 games to go do what you need to do, figure some things out, and then be ready to go to Athens, which I believe is obviously your first real test. But if you can get past Michigan and all the rest of that stuff unscathed, then you should kind of know where you fit, where you are as far as that safety room is concerned. But again, I'm excited about this team, and I'm definitely excited to hear about these guys post winter workouts.
Yeah, definitely. So, our final topic of the day. So, I've been pretty bold up front saying that Zane Rowe was heading OU, that OU was going to land Zane Rowe. And my sources were right. My sources told me that for weeks, starting in early January, and pretty much the internet industry picked up on that within about a week or two after that. Obviously, now everyone is saying that he's wide open, and maybe Oregon and Washington might be a place, or maybe North Carolina, maybe OU slipping with him. So basically, what happened? Well, it's a clear case of, from my sources' perspective, OU believed that they had, established a baseline of what a contract looked like with Zane Rowe, and they believed that they were in the same ballpark with Zane Rowe's representation and his family. Now Zane Rowe, now his representation has come back with a different number, and OU's like, no, that's the number. And other schools are talking about that, talking about bigger numbers, and OU's like, well, that's nice, but this is our number. This is how we do business. This is how we've been talking to you for the last 8 weeks. Nothing's really changed. And if you think you can get a bigger, better number from somebody else, well, you're welcome to pursue that. But this is where we have you valued. We think this is where we think you're going to be. So, let us know if that still interests you. Otherwise, you know, if you want to go somewhere else and get more money, this is the recruiting world we live in, and if that's what you want to do, then feel free to do that. So that appears to be the case. I don't think the kid's a diva. I think some programs have reached out to him who maybe are slipping on D-line recruiting and some of their other targets. And OU isn't. They've got Crew Jones. They got Elijah Harmon. They've got other guys that they think will be Sooners, that they're happy with who they picked up. And Zane Rowe's not a nose guard. He's not a big defensive tackle right now. And he's not an edge rusher. So OU's pursuing some other lines and other players they're looking at. And, we'll see where it goes. Would I like Zane Rowe in the class? Yeah. But he probably is a defensive tackle for the Sooners. And he's not the explosive 6'5", 250 defensive end he was, a couple of years ago. He's now 6'4", 6'5", 270, 275, and he needs to put on another 25 pounds to play defensive tackle in the SEC. So it's more of a projection. He's got to move inside. So I think some of these variables, some programs like Oregon are maybe telling him he can play defensive end in their scheme. And maybe he can do that. And maybe Oregon will offer him. Maybe Oregon thinks his value is greater than OU does. So we'll have these things shake out over the next 8 to 9 months in terms of with prospects. But I think that's where the Zane Rowe story is. I don't think he's going to be at the Future Freaks event. I think he's going to be at North Carolina or Washington.
I'm sorry. He said North Carolina. So what?
Yeah, he's going. He's entering the Bill Belichick experiment. I think that's a possibility. They're up, and North Carolina probably has after that. Let's just call it what it was. It was a shit show in Chapel Hill last year. They're having to probably offer a little more money than they were last year. So, we saw this with some kids. Some in-state kids last year that Oklahoma State offered more than OU was willing to offer, and those guys are now part of the Eric Morris project in Oklahoma State. So overall, it's just this is the way it's going to work. Sometimes programs are going to come in. Texas A&M, Texas Tech all dropped off Rowe apparently because I think they saw the same sort of things going on, and OU's just not going to move off their price point with kids, at least not right now.
I think, if we learned anything from the Hatton experience and any recruiting experience, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So,
exactly, always
and
has been.
With this staff especially, this could be the conversation right now. 2 days later, they could be okay. We got a deal in place. That's just how fast these things are happening. Kchris Mason, opposed to just continuing to be the dead horse over the head with that, we know where we don't love the news, but we understand the news. Let's just ask a question and we'll end it here. Kchris Mason, a while ago I said it. Now I see people are starting to say it too. I have to get out in front of it. Kchris Mason, I said it. Part of fixing NIL in college football is you need to put a cap on the high school. I'm sorry. There has to be some type of cap. I'm not saying it can't be $1 million. I'm not saying it has to just be 250. It should be something in between. Whatever the case may be, you have your guys. You have it to where it's official, where, hey, we're offering you a scholarship, no NIL. We're offering you this amount of NIL based on the star or whatever the case, however you guys want to do it. Regardless, so I think that would help add more parity, more everything. I think it would get back, at least it would get back to the old way things were. I don't think that you would be able to just hoard talent anymore because I think coaches are spread out. And I think that in this new recruiting style, this new regime, I think teams are still going to be able to value kids certain ways, whatever the case may be. But I think it would help in some instances, maybe even this right here, to where I think that it would make the representation more focused and more accountable as well. Because I think that, and it would kind of put the, a little bit more authority, a little bit more power back with the coaches, I think, in a sense, which is not all the time great, but at the same time, it's something that kind of, let these kids know, hey, we want you, but we don't want all of them and all the circus. Like, we just want to get something done as quickly as we possibly can. So, I mean, that's just my thoughts. I think that you got to add something in there that would help. If you're not going to put a cap or do anything with these kids in free agency, when they have done something right, on the field, or done something to the sense. Maybe some of them have it. There's freshmen all the time who leave and don't have any stats for us to really go off of, or any real meaningful snaps, right? Um, but I just think that as far as some of these high school kids, you kind of got to start putting the cap in there to really eliminate a lot of this. Does that, maybe the con of that is that, do you see another Alabama happening where they get 16 5 stars? You know what I'm saying? And they're just hoarding that talent and forcing them a gray shirt. I don't know, because Nick Saban's not there anymore. So are you living with the ghost of Sparta, or are you living with the actual, character that you really want, right? And I don't know if DeBoer is that guy for a lot of these kids. I think his recruiting tactics are great, but at the same time, I just don't know. So the Ohio States of the world, that's where you could say, okay, well, they may try to hoard talent or whatever. At that point, if it just becomes, hey, 5 stars get 500,000, 4 stars get 250, then everybody else gets whatever's left, right? But that's just kind of my thought process, because everybody wants to play nowadays and all the rest of that in the transfer portal. So, what's going on? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'll tie kind of a I'll tie kind of a middle ground here. Every professional sport has the successful professional sports, in terms of where there is some parity, has established some kind of rookie fixed pay scale, right?
Yeah,
Sam Bradford was the last guy that got the mega guaranteed deal, right? And then the veteran NFL players said, okay, that money needs to be going to the veterans, not to rookies. NBA did the exact same thing as well. So, and Major League Baseball even has a pool of signing money as well. So, I've said all along, we need a CBA for the players, and we need a CBA that reflects reality of this new business and this new business model. So, you know, there's guys, everyone pretends like there's not a salary cap out in the real business world. There is. If you've ever really, there is. You run into caps all the time in the business world. This is a reality that exists, and to think it doesn't, that there's just this massive free market where you can just continually make more and more and more money. That's just not reality either. But I would say that when you look at what NFL did, the NBA did, both the NHL and Major League Baseball, every professional league that's worked, thievery. There's a cap. There's a reality. There's a real cap to how much money you can make in the real world. There is. It just is. It happens. You can talk to people all the time. You can change careers. You can change jobs, and that's because maybe there's a cap at where you currently are, but you may run into a cap at your new job. So, from that perspective, so I think, yes, for the college, for the For the college football model to work, it needs a CBA and it needs fixed costs around freshman high school acquisition. If there are no rules, then, okay, that's where we currently are. But we need guardrails. And it needs to be something that's give and take on both sides, like a true CBA. We're about to see, Major League Baseball is not working in terms of, doesn't really work because of how it's set up. So, I, I yeah, but McDonald's and Burger King do get together to set a price. It's called the minimum wage, and states set that, and they don't go over that. So you have Thievery. You've never been in a job where you have been told you are basically maxed out in your salary at a position. I don't know what world you live in. That's the world that folks in numerous careers constantly hit. Sorry if that's not. I'm happy for you if that's not the case, but that's just the real world. So yes, Chris, I think for college football to hit a workable model, which is not what we currently have, they've got to have some sort of fixed acquisition cap for freshmen. Yeah.
I mean, I don't really liken it to that of like a job. I mean, when you look at the NFL model, which they are trying to resemble, which is basically a lot of this is NFL like NFL influence, right? It makes sense. I mean, I think that that's something that if there were a CBA, that's something I think it's trending towards that. To be honest with you, I think that's one of the first real fixes that you'll see is putting a cap. And people, it's not like we're telling these kids, okay, you can't come in here and make 1.5, 1.1 million, but hell, they're going to still be able to get outside endorsements. There's going to be other things that they'll be able to get. Now, I remember I went to the point to where I was like, yeah, they won't be able to have those endorsements or this and that or whatever case in the first year. No, they can have all the rest of that stuff and make it up on the back end. We know that these teams, these boosters, these donors, aka et cetera, they're going to do what they do. But at the same time, we're saying that as far as a finite amount for the kids to kind of add more parity, more clarity to the situation, so you don't end up with these type of ordeals. I'm fine with the Cam Coleman's getting the $5.5 million or whatever from Texas. That's perfectly fine. Those kids have actually went out there and proved something, have went out there and done something. But there's plenty of five stars out there that are not playing. And we've been on the bad side of a couple of five stars here lately, right? So I'm just I'm just going off of that.
It's again, guys. You're saying, our Hall of Fame teammate is saying, "Call me this, call me that." Guys, you telling me that the NFL is a communist socialist organization, an organization run by 30 of the richest people in the world, who have all made their money by manipulating and by hard work, innovation, or manipulation of various financial systems across the world? You're
Yeah.
telling me that that's a communist system, that the 32 richest people in the world are running a socialist system?
Yeah.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
And no, I
Again
mean,
and again, again, it needs to be collectively bargained. That was the first
but
thing that I said.
Jason's missing the point. He's grouping too much stuff in. This is a singular thing. This is
Yeah.
not plural. It's just a simple fact of you're saying, hey, we know that they're going to group other things in or whatever the case may be. If that's the case, that's the case. But what we're saying is that hey, there's one amount that is based on what your ranking is or whatever the case may be. This is the highest amount that we can offer you. This is the highest amount anybody else can offer you to put more clarity and parity back in football, which everybody is clamoring for. There's a lot of stuff everybody's clamoring for, and this is one of those things that a lot of people are talking about. Just heard Herb Street talk about it as well. It I think it's a reality that's going to happen in college football simply because I think coaches are getting to the point to where they're getting tired of this shit. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. You can't really do anything on the back end. You can only do something on the front end. And I think that with the NCAA, they've really just put themselves in a corner that they can't get out of. I think that they have
Yeah.
set there. I think the NCAA is to the point to where I think they're at the point to where they're like, hey, maybe self sabotage is the best thing, and then I think it just has taken on a life of itself to now where they can't really stop it because they're already losing in the court of public opinion, and now they're losing in real court.
Yeah. I
So
mean, it's an, I mean, like I said, if the college wants to go to the NFL model,
yeah,
the NFL has a rookie salary cap. If you're not aware of this, guys, it has it. When you're the 15th player in the first round, you make X amount of money. So, if you're not aware of that, the NBA works the same way. Major League Baseball for their draft has a pool of money each team gets.
we're,
These
we're
these
preaching to
caps.
we're preaching to a bunch of heathens out here because
Well, no, I mean I understand
Jason's
that.
saying we gotta live in reality, and he don't read contracts though,
Yeah,
so we
okay.
good on
Well,
that.
that's fine. But anyway,
He
so
about to
that's
get mad.
okay. Well, we've got lots of real Sooner news to talk Thursday that we don't need to rehash this. You know, rehash this. Um, okay. Well, we'll talk Jason. We'll talk new info OU wise on Thursday. But that's what I got for you guys recruiting wise. Are there any recruiting questions about recruiting before we sign off? Going once,
So,
going twice. That would be okay. Thank you, Boomer Sooner, for that articulate, for
and
that for that for that
they're fighting in the
for
league
that
right
for
now.
that Socratic response about the NBA. All right, Topher B, thank you. So one of the strange things that popped up is that Izzy Hammonds, in-state linebacker from Choctaw, just got put in the top 150 by Rival. He's a 4-star. He has good film. Should OU offer him? Yeah, I think they probably should kick the tires on that, bring him in for the Future Freaks event, size him up, and see what's going on. So, yeah, it's an interesting. I know you could use a third linebacker in the class, especially if Case Alexander, for some strange reason, decides to go to Penn State. I know his brother plays there, but we'll see how Matt Campbell and the Nittany Cyclones, who couldn't win the Big 12, how they're going to win a bigger conference with better teams in it. OU Revenge Tour. I think Seneca drivers should be at the Future Freaks event. OU needs to make a push. Kentucky's been pushing. It's OU needs to make some push there and try and get some separation from the job Will Stein's doing with the new look Kentucky Wildcats. Boomer Sooner 129. Jason Witten is going to take some visits. He's going to play the recruiting thing out. But I don't see how he's not going to OU. And I think at some point the other programs recruiting him are just going to kind of fall off the wayside, and we'll see an OU commitment. I just don't see how he's not going to be a Sooner. I thought that before OU hired his dad. Now that his dad's on campus with the team, I just don't see how anything. I don't see how that changes. To be honest, if I was Tennessee or any of the other programs, I'd really de-emphasize Jason as I'd de-emphasize Cooper as a recruit. You're just not winning that battle. I mean, I don't think you were winning it before, and you're certainly not winning it now. Jimmy, I agree. I think they should offer Hammonds. He's an interesting prospect, and he would be a good third linebacker in the class. I think that makes a lot of sense to go ahead and offer him. Size him up, make sure he's really 6'2", 215, to make sure he's not 5'11", 200. Kids the measurements aren't always accurate. Size him up, make sure he's really got that profile you want. Bring him in. I think that's an interesting offer and could make a lot of sense, especially if you think you're losing track with Case Alexander. Okay. Who knows, man? Truoki, there's something going on, and I won't pretend to fully be wired in on OU baseball, but Skip Johnson's not offered Hawk in baseball, so that's kind of leaving OU kind of on the sideline there. I think he may go to Notre Dame. That's a distinct possibility. A couple other schools also look at him. I mean, he's a very talented athlete on film. I just don't know. He's going to be a two-sport guy. His dad was a baseball player for OSU, as I understand it. I can't name many OSU baseball players, but that's because I don't give a shit about OSU baseball. So I understand his dad was a baseball player at OSU, and I think he's a pretty talented guy from on the baseball field as well. So I think he may have to make a decision between baseball and football, possibly. I don't know if he need. I don't. It's one of those things where to play tight end in the SEC, he needs to be 240, 245 pounds. Can he put on that weight and still play the baseball position he wants to play at the level he wants to? So I think that's unanswered, and like I said, I don't think Skip has said, yeah, the two-sport thing at OU is not a problem yet. So there's some disconnect, I think, on the baseball side of things that's keeping OU from being all in with Hawks. But I could be wrong on that. That's the last I heard on that.
It's interesting.
Yeah, true.
Like the baseball thing's just not working out like you thought it would,
Yeah, Truoki's saying he's who knows more about the baseball side of this than I do. If he's a first baseman, yeah, I think he probably could play at 240, 245, but is he willing to put on that weight?
Yeah.
So I don't know. So we'll see how that shakes out. But I can tell you, if OU could get Zach Ferris from Vegas or Seneca Driver from Kentucky, who we talked about, both of those kids are 6'7", 6'6", and can carry 245, 250 pretty easily. So we'll see how that shakes out. But I'm a little surprised that Titus was at a number of OU games this fall. I'm a little surprised that OU hasn't made a bigger push with him, and I think it's kind of the baseball thing is kind of an unknown right now. And it's hard to Skip's on a heater right now. It's kind of hard to say, Skip, offer this guy so we can get him for football with what Skip's doing baseball-wise.
Yeah, they are balling right now, which is, I know a lot of people saying they could be the best team in the SEC right now, which I was like, what?
That's a statement right there.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh,
so yeah, I agree with you. I look at his frame. I think he could carry that weight. Does he want to be a blocker? I think there's some things to figure out there, but I think the baseball thing is a little up in the air, and that's kind of holding things up. Taylor Tatum basically sort of lost his spot on the OU baseball team, and that sunk him from a football attitude-wise. OU revenge tour, you are correct. Jenna, that may be what OU's afraid of. They don't want that situation. Skip, the basketball guy, ditched basketball and is already starting for the baseball team. I think he started a couple of games already. The big forward kid, left Porter's team, is playing for baseball. So it's interesting. But yeah, I mean, if you want to include OU's assistant coach hiring in that, OU's on a heater hiring wise too. So I think you could add that, other than Porter, other than the malaise of the Porter, the Porter death spiral, everything else is pretty much on a heater. Like even the tennis team's winning. So yeah, but I think that's where we are. Truoki. I'm surprised. Like I said, there's something missing there with the Titus Hawk situation that I just don't have the answers on. And last I heard, Skip was hesitant to offer him for baseball for some reason, and I'm not sure what that was. Maybe Skip just thinks, he's going to go to Oklahoma State and play where his dad played, and he's kind of like, I'm not wasting time with this. You know, so we'll see what happens. But OU's got two big tight ends that are equivalent to Hawk, I think, in terms of potential that they want to bring in for the March 7th Future Freaks weekend, which will be the focus of kind of what we talk about next week.
Benji, you really kind of. Hey, look, I can take the heat on the whole idea about the cap and stuff, but my God, this right here, boy, are you sure you think this is Bevo? This got to be Bevo. Bevo got to be using your account right now.
Well, it's not like it. Isn't Texas having a shitty basketball season too?
Shit. It's not near as where shitty as ours.
Well, all right, but okay.
It's not near as where shitty as ours.
Okay, all right. Well, I thought they were not having a good year either, but maybe, like I said, I'm not. Yeah, it's not paying attention to hoops. Four losses ago during the losing streak. But yeah, overall, that's the tightest Hawk. All right, guys, one last chance for an actual recruiting question. Going. All right, we're out of here. A good time, not a long time, as Chris says. And we've given you an hour and 5 minutes.
I don't have any more I can go, Chris Mason. I'm still stuck on this whole Porter thing. Big G wants another year. I say, hey man, look, I've done all I can.
Hey, if y'all was an opposing fan base, I'd be like, keep, like Billy Napier, keep bringing Billy Napier back, right? I mean,
Women's basketball. We can do women's basketball all day. But I am not talking about this dribble handoff offense anymore. I sound like Jason with Arbuckle. I can't do this dribble handoff offense anymore. I can't do that shit. I have literally held my tongue, been cool all year, and I'm just like, I can't do it anymore. I just can't.
All right. On that note, we'll be back next Monday. We'll be talking about the March 7th Future Freaks event. Going to be some other news floating around as well. So we will talk about that. And I'll prep you guys for a big recruiting's back in business March 1st. Kids are visiting. OU coaches can go on the road. We're out of the dead period. It's all back on, and things are going into overdrive.
All right. That being said, people, we out. Peace.